Oh my God. Would you guys like to know some trivia about after last season?
You know what, Jay? I honestly would, yes.
I don't know if it'll give us any answers, but the film was only released in 4 cities. Afterwards, distributors called each theater individually and told them to burn the prints because it was cheaper than sending them back.
I worry sometimes that we've run out of ammunition, that we've seen everything there is, every kind of bad there is, and then whenever I think that something like after last season comes around, I don't understand what this is.
It is worthy of a spotlight episode of Best of the Worst. I'll tell you that much.
Like a lot of bad movies, even though they make no sense, like I can like the Rorschach, I can see what they were trying to do because they've seen other movies and like things they're kind of trying to emulate and failing. I don't even know what this is trying to do.
What's the story? This has been on our radar for a decade.
This is one of those movies that's always kind of looming. It has a mild notoriety. It's slightly famous in the world of bad movies.
Well, who released it? Is this a self-release? Just before you get into it, we need to talk about, is there a distributor?
I think it was released by him because the only production company name on the back is his.
After Last Season. On DVD. Order it from afterlastseason.com.
Oh
boy. Oh boy.
One of the most intriguing and amazing films of the year. It is also a frightening experience.
These are the chips?
Well, the question is this movie a failed, pretentious art film, or was he going for a more conventional movie and failed so spectacularly at that it just kind of feels like it's an art film?
It's too spectacular a fail. Like this is beyond failure to make a movie. This is into the category of somebody truly deranged failed to make a movie.
And she didn't know she was allergic to shrimp?
No. She told me she's had shrimp many times before. This was the first time she developed an allergic reaction to the food.
And cut.
I'm now starting to predict when a scene... Oh, no, it's not over. Never mind.
This is like if John Wayne Gacy failed to make a horror movie right.
Well, those line up too well. It would be like if Rich Evans got out a blueprint and designed a building. Right? Like John Wayne Gacy knows about murder. He could probably make a pretty darn good horror picture. But Rich, I don't know if you know a lot about constructing a building. So your blueprints, when handed over to an engineer and a contractor, would build something that was like the Ned Flanders house in The Simpsons.
But Mike, I understand what a building is. This goes beyond that. This is like...
Building has 4 walls. You can draw a square or a rectangle.
You could probably muddle through a blueprint.
No, this is like if somebody asked Rich Evans to design a nuclear reactor.
Or Rich Evans is a fashion designer. How about that? You just given a bunch of material, like just all these different kinds of materials in a sewing machine, and said, make fashionable outfits for all these women to walk down the runway, women and men to walk down the runway in. Design clothes, make pants, and have them zip up and button and shirts, and see what happens.
A sewing machine and a ream of paper.
Okay, sure.
Breathe normally.
The real star of the film?
Yeah.
Pieces of paper.
So what is after last season?
I don't know!
No one knows.
I don't fucking know what this is!
Well, halfway through the movie, it started to feel like a plot was being introduced, and that goes on for about 20 minutes, and then it turns out that's a dream.
Matt. Are you okay?
And then it goes back to nothing.
You're jumping to the end. Let's start off at the beginning.
Sure.
Because this is a spotlight. You know, we have all the time in the world to talk about this. We opened in
Grandma's MRI machine.
Grandma's MRI machine, which is in her guest bedroom, where they cleared out the furniture. The walls are pink or blue, I can't remember.
They're pink.
And the MRI machine is made out of cardboard and tissue paper.
Yes.
You will need to remain still for the images to be sharp.
Oh, that's an MRI.
That's an MRI machine made out of paper.
It's like cardboard covered with wax paper? Is that what that is?
While you're inside the MRI scanner, you'll be able to talk through the two-way channel.
They made their best 6th grade effort to build their own MRI machine, but along the top of the set, the room, not the set, they covered up the grandma wallpaper border with pieces of white paper, as we've done here to honor the film. We got out 8.5 by 11 sheets of white paper, which the movie used to no expense. Spared no expense. So they covered up the border with just white paper.
Sponsored by Dunder Mifflin.
Sponsored by Dunder Mifflin.
I'm going to take one cross-section. I'm going to take one photo of a cross-section.
What? What? What?
Okay, lady that's an actual doctor who, it's her first day as a doctor because she just opened her lab coat out of the plastic package it came in.
Apparently it's everyone's first day.
So lady is explaining to man how the MRI works. And then there's a bunch of shit about doctors talking to each other about how the brain works. And
Well, another doctor comes in. It's the same MRI room, and he's explaining the MRI machine to our two main characters, Matthew and Sarah?
Yes.
Yes.
And we only know their names because their names appear in the credits at the end of the movie.
Yeah, I don't think they ever say their name.
She says her name. She's like, my name's Sarah Collins, or something like that on the phone.
Yep.
When she calls 911, when the ghost throws a folding chair at the serial killer.
The chair, it knocked him out.
The chair knocked him out? I'm in the corporate building. I'm in the room right before the meeting room. Someone's been stabbed. The murderer's still in the building. No, I'm fine. Sarah. Austin.
When that first scene happened in the hospital, did you expect a ghost to show up at any point in the film?
I expected the hospital to show up at more points in the film. We have the hospital. Our two main characters are interns, and a doctor explains the MRI machine. The MRI machine seems very important because it's featured prominently in the first two scenes that take place in the same room. And then it disappears for the rest of the movie, and our main characters are no longer hospital interns.
Yeah, just for that first scene, and then they coincidentally get jobs at the
Polomios.
the Polonia Brothers
Polonia Brothers
complex
Corporation,
where we get the establishing shot of the building, and they superimpose text onto the building that's supposed to be the sign for the company.
Is the opening with Matthew and Sarah, is that a flash forward or a flash back?
It's neither. It's just narratively, it's going linear.
Because she's in college. She goes in her dorm room. Remember when her best friend tells her about her friend? She had a salad, but her friend had the shrimp, and her friend's brain just decided it was allergic to shrimp.
Yeah.
And so, but Sarah is very clearly established that she's in a dorm.
Mm-hmm. Wow, you get some nice radio clock. Where did you get it?
You have a nice radio clock?
Yeah, the buttons on my old
What? What?
What?
They had a radio and they had a clock, and so they just put one in front of the other.
They taped them together. I often compliment someone's radio clock.
What is the what?
Look at that.
They just wrap paper around
There's like wallpaper. Go one around the corner.
Why would it?
She coming from a room?
Is that a door? Was it a doorway? Is that a doorway? What is that? What's going on? Where are we?
I can't process what I'm seeing.
Is the dorm room the room that had gift wrapping paper half wrapped around a wall, and the doorway was just like a gap
That's every
with a
room.
black void behind it?
It's one of the rooms.
Was that the dorm room?
There's that room that has, it's like the wallpaper that they bought to cover up the set was wrapped around.
curves it
They ran
around.
out, and so they just taped.
And there's like a weird piece of plywood that's just sort of screwed into the wall underneath that piece of paper.
I know you guys want to talk about the sets, but I want to talk about Sarah's linear progression in her profession. From college student to
She's
doctor.
an internship at the hospital. And then she gets a job at the Polonia
Okay,
Brothers.
so she's like a fifth-year medical student. She's still in studies, but she's doing like rotations, learning about MRI machines. But in her spare time, she meets up with
Matthew?
And Matthew is a psychology major who's doing interviews.
He's doing some kind of psychology research experiment thing.
Wow. That was a surprise.
In another room in the Polonia building where they work, which is a building that has walls built out of pieces of paper that are taped together.
I like the end of that hallway where it's just wide open gaps, but there's like a door in the middle of it, but then there's just like no wall.
And there's
Quit
arrows.
talking about the sets.
I feel like if we figure out what's going on with the sets, it'll be like the key to understanding the whole film.
I know rooms A through B are that way. I know that. Well, okay, so the guy who made this movie, he spent $5 million making it, allegedly.
According to IMDb.
Yeah, we don't know if that's true or not, but I mean, clearly he spent something on it because it's shot on film.
Yeah.
But our old studio was in like a gutted warehouse arts building, right? And it appears that he went through the pointless trouble to recreate what is in real life. Like if you want to make a science fiction epic, you build sets inside of a warehouse. If you want to shoot in an apartment hallway, you can shoot in an apartment hallway because there's plenty of them. You don't have to build one with plywood and duct tape.
But they have all that paper, Mike. they have so much paper and bright orange arrows. What are you going to do with that?
It could be like a Tommy Wiseau situation, when they're like, why don't we film in the alley right across from the studio? And he's like, well, because this is a Hollywood movie. We got to shoot on the set. He has to control. You shoot on the set so you can control the environment. You can control the lighting. And that's very important to this film.
Sound.
Oh, that's some dream you had.
I can tell you about it later. Let's finish the exercise. And see.
It is the worst sound. It's like the building that they filmed in was next to like a NASCAR track.
And they tried to filter it, maybe?
That's the weird thing is they're talking and has that.
Yeah.
If you know anything about audio, when you like super filter audio down, you get that weird digital like gross sound.
Warbly.
Yeah. It sounds like you're underwater. It's hard to explain, but like where it's like all the thickness of the audio gets pulled out and it becomes like the tinny kind of sounding, and you could tell when a car's passing by because it sounds like a demon EVP is like yelling into.
Yeah, there are two chairs by the sink, and one of them seems to have a piece of paper on it.
Why is there a demon growling in the background constantly?
Mike, they filmed this inside a fish tank.
Okay.
Mike, this movie was dying on life support. He had to hook it up to an aquarium.
It's a deep cut there, Rich. It's a deep cut.
When you want to end the thought transmission, either open your eyes or just remove the chip from your temple.
So, something about the brain.
Yeah, well, the whole movie hinges on that. Psychology, the way the brain works.
Does it hinge on that?
I think
Because
so.
that part is all dream.
Well,
The movie hinges on those cheap plywood doors. There's a lot of those.
Oh, there's a killer.
Yes, which is established early on. Because we intercut between our two main characters as interns at the hospital learning about the MRI machine to Guy in warehouse, sitting in a chair, standing next to the chair, looking out from the room with the chair, and then he gets killed off camera.
I guess he was stabbed, and to be fair, I did not notice that he got stabbed because I was so befuddled by the sets and just the jarring cutaways to just a wall for a second or two and then back.
It's all so poorly done. It's so poorly shot. You're so confused that you just start to reject the movie.
Pro Corporation.
Hi, I'm a new intern. I think I'm on the 3rd floor.
What?
She's the new intern. She's supposed to be on the 3rd floor.
Was she saying that to the other girl that knocked on the door?
Like your brain rejects it, so you forget information.
It's like getting an organ transplant. I think, like, logically, I made a joke during the screening room that the film is filled with 90s album covers.
Yes.
In this guy's head, like, progression of time between shots, he didn't know what to do. He had no idea how to construct a movie. Even progression of time is very easily covered up with an exterior shot of a building. It's like the simplest way to do it, right? Or fucking a clock.
Sure.
It's film school, like a clock is spinning. He didn't know what to do, so he just used whatever like random things he had.
Random shots.
And there's one where there's like a shot of a dresser, like a dusty dresser, and it has no connection to anything. It's just that, or the signage on the wall.
Yeah. How likely is that?
Because something I noticed, he doesn't really do like close-ups of people's dialogue. Most conversations play out in like a 2-shot.
Yeah, and sometimes he'll cut from one wide shot to a slightly different angle of that basically the same wide shot.
Now, is that because he didn't have much film and he couldn't film like the conversation and then film it again in close-ups?
I'm going to assume that he just didn't know how to make a movie.
Okay.
He did not understand the most basic of cinematic language.
When he was here during the winter, we talked about what he had seen.
Is that Emo Phillips?
That was severe injury.
Which one?
The guy on the right. You have a theory that the guy who made this is insane.
I
Expound upon that.
because this makes so little sense.
And it's so fixated on like the brain and psychology.
It's very fixated on like medical information. There's lots of people just talking about medical science type stuff, and I'm like, is that like his weird obsession? And he thought like that was like super important, and just a lot of that. It doesn't have anything to do with any kind of large narrative. Just people constantly talking about MRI machines will scan for this and that.
He took a snapshot of her brain and compared it with the brain of a patient who was treated with a different medication, one that blocks serotonin receptors. I have some of the MRIs.
Was this written by AI?
It was written by MRI.
I'm so distracted by the sets. I
That's
haven't
like
been...
the best joke I've ever made.
Voices that resemble people.
Somebody who's seen a movie, like they're a big fan of like crime movies, and they don't know how to make a good movie, but they would know like, well, you need the scene where they're in the strip club talking about plans, and you have that, and the dialogue's bad, and their plot doesn't make any sense, but they have that semblance of that scene that they're supposed to have in their crime movie. None of this makes any kind of sense. Like what was this inspired by? Like movie-wise, nothing. This exists. It's like it's unique. It's a movie. It's a unicorn.
I guess that's about as close to anything positive as we can say about it, right?
I was trying to get into the lab. There are 6 digits to the access code. Now, what are the last digits to the access code?
Oh, I guess they saw him.
doesn't understand scary, but he's very interested in like how a ghost physics might work, which is why you have a lot of the ghost would have to move the things out of the way, and he's like the ghost is describing what it's like as a ghost to pick up a ruler and to have the ruler start sinking through his fingers.
And his moment of death, the ghost describes that. Remember?
Yeah.
Craig, what happened after you collapsed?
I saw myself lying on the ground. The person on the ground wasn't moving. I felt dizzy, and I walked into the front yard of the house.
So the focus on that scene isn't horror, it's like the physics and realities of being a ghost.
Yeah. Yeah.
So...
I can't handle this. I can't handle this, Jay. What do I do? I would not be surprised if this person has some kind of legitimate mental health issue.
Okay, well, that's a nice disclaimer before we rip apart this movie. Okay,
It's a small world, huh? I mean, we're in the same graduate program and interns at the same company.
Yeah. How likely is that?
What is that?
Is this like mysterious shadows and things everywhere?
I'm starting to think this is legitimately made by somebody with mental disabilities. This is beyond the normal level of incompetence. Next time we cut to them, are their heads just going to be on the very bottom of the frame?
Half an hour. Most of the subjects were done in like 20 minutes.
But my schedule looks pretty booked up this week.
Sarah and Matthew are interns getting taught about MRIs. Then they discover that they work at the Polonia Brothers company. And Matthew says to Sarah, I'm doing weird research. Then he has a box on the table and he presses a button and it's like a file box, like a legal file box, and then the top goes like a sci-fi movie, and I'm like, Murr? Wow. What the fuck was that? And then...
This is 45 minutes into the movie. This is the first introduction of anything sci-fi.
Yes, yes. And then I'm like, oh, we've taken a sci-fi turn. And he says, listen, lady. Listen, lady. I've got these little chips, and you put them on your right temple, and we can communicate. And she's like, can you read my thoughts? And he's like, oh yeah. And she's like, can I read your thoughts? And he's like, no. Then they start telepathically linking each other and seeing CGI imagery. Mm-hmm. And then it goes on for a little bit. I'm sorry
silence.
I'm sorry if this is long-winded, but this is the movie, okay, everybody? It goes on for a while, and then we see animated humans.
Yeah.
And
after like 20 minutes of just squares and circles and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we see there's a house, and again with the 8.5 by 11 sheets of white paper. There's a house that has two windows, and between the two windows.
That's second. Because first someone is stabbed in one of the visions. It's just the crude CGI. It's got like the weird messed up face on one of them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she tries. The CGI lady tries to throw a box.
She's trying to defend herself. She's throwing boxes.
Yeah, and this is where she explains, completely out of nowhere, in the middle of the movie, that she is psychic.
Yeah.
And she has visions of these murders that have been happening.
So, okay, wait, there's either a house that has two windows and 3 sheets of white 8.5 by 11 paper taped to the outside of the house.
Yeah.
Which probably wouldn't last more than a couple of nights in New England.
In the winter.
In New England. Depending on the weather, if there's a nor'easter coming through the Boston area, park your car on the right side of the street during the nor'easter, and make sure you got plenty of extra batteries and flashlights in your cellar. Then there's a pantry, and a pantry door that also has a sheet of white paper taped to the door.
And we're intercutting between their psychic link CG stuff and the real world stuff. And we presume that the murder is happening on the other side of that door.
On the other side of the door, and she's like, I see a man. There's a lady. She's wearing a blouse, and she's a lady. And then there's a man, but you can't see his face. And he's holding like a cone, stabbing instrument. And then we think the lady gets stabbed, hard cuts, and then we cut to some Bostonian who walks in and says, Carol, why is there a book in the living room, Carol?
I gotta talk to you about this book.
Angie, it looks like someone left a book in the living room. Is it yours?
It's a big problem here.
What? Angie?
We gotta talk about this book.
Who left the book in the living room?
It's a book. It's out of place.
It's out of place.
We gotta talk about this book.
Why is there a book?
There's a book. I know where every article of item we own in that living room is supposed to be at all times, and there's a book there now. Where did the book come from, Sarah?
Carol, why are you in the pantry? The piece of paper pantry. The piece of paper pantry.
Piece of paper pantry.
I put the piece of paper on the piece of paper pantry to keep you out.
Carol, I said I wanted a pizzeria pantry where we can stock our pizza. I didn't want this paper shit.
How are we gonna stock pizzas in the pantry? It's not refrigerated. I said I want a refrigerated piece of paper pantry. Carol.
Well, now our fridge is full of paper.
I put all the pieces of paper in the fridge. And all the pizzas in the piece of paper pantry. And they all went bad. The book is about how to keep pizzas fresh while they're at room temperature. No.
The vision, it's stopped.
So then Carol is dead, and we know this because,
oh yeah, he leaves. Remember, he leaves.
Because my favorite part of the movie, Matthew just leaves.
While I was out there, an ambulance went to a house on Lara Street.
Oh.
Oh, he
A
went.
woman was trapped in her room.
He went there?
She has multiple stab wounds and she's in critical condition.
What?
Wait, how did he know where to go?
He followed the pieces of paper.
He saw the house on whatever street with the paper.
But
And somehow he knows exactly what, while she waited there.
She just sat there, I guess.
do you remember the science fiction machine the chips were in?
What are these paper monoliths?
Why? Why?
What? Where'd she go?
Back down. How much do we have left?
Well, got 4 questions left.
They just forget about the murder?
They almost stopped the murder.
Anyway, back to the test.
They're gonna finish what they're working on.
Shines in small waves in the ocean.
Then we're like, okay, so Alice?
Sarah!
Sarah has psychic powers, and this is now a movie about these chips on their temples, and they're going to psychically link and kind of see through the eyes of the killer. It's like that movie where she's got the twin in her that couldn't join.
Oh, Malignant!
It's like Malignant, where they could see through the eyes of the killer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we get a few shots in the movie that are like, it's like a parking lot that's covered in snow, and we didn't know what it was supposed to be. I thought it was like white monoliths, but I think it's supposed to be miniature houses and buildings.
Yes. Made out of presumably paper.
Made out of paper. Just I don't know how he had access to all this paper, but he's utilizing it well.
This movie's a Michael Scott joint.
Directed by Michael Scarn. Michael Scott made a better movie.
He did. He did.
Yeah, Threat Level Midnight.
Threat Level Midnight was a great film compared to this.
But that's the killer. He's coming to their room. Because we see in the vision, the room, it's got the piece of paper that they didn't actually have the experiment room printed on the paper. They did that with CGI, with an effect after the fact.
Yeah, like an After Effects. They filmed the piece of paper on the wall, a blank piece of paper, and then just digitally inserted text on it. Yeah. It's so bizarre.
But now we see that door in her vision, and the killer is right outside the door. And then the door opens, and a ghost walks in.
Who's there?
That'll stop the ghosts.
I don't see anything moving.
I don't hear any footsteps.
It's the killer, but he's invisible now.
Oh, that's part of the dream.
Yeah.
And then they wake up.
And then they wake up.
Then the real killer then comes in.
Yes.
After they wake up, and it turns out Sarah is not psychic, the last 40 minutes of the movie have been one extended dream sequence. He fell asleep right before they started their experiment. There isn't even a mind reading chip. Yeah. That doesn't even exist. She walks in.
That cardboard box is just gone now.
All in his head.
Yeah. The experiment is just her asking him questions. And I guess coincidentally there really is a killer. He's not a ghost, he's a real killer. Yeah. And he's at the door. But it's okay, because then the real ghost saves them.
Then the ghost actually shows up.
The ghost is real!
And I guess that's...
He's real!
He throws a chair at him.
Throws a chair at the serial killer.
And then they're like, oh, wow, the ghost... And it's after that when they start talking to the ghost about, like, you can move stuff, huh? But he can't move anything after that except for the ruler.
Oh, this is too heavy to move. It's like really like specific on what the ghost can do. It's like weird.
But he could throw the chair earlier.
It's kind of the questions I probably would ask a ghost too.
Sure.
I'm having a difficult time moving that chair. I can see myself having arms, and with my arms, I can feel the object, and I can push it.
Well, can you move my backpack?
The bag is too heavy. I couldn't hold on to it. I can lift the ruler.
That's cute. Because the killer comes in, and there's just like a moment. Because remember, there's that long sequence where the ghost is like, the serial killer is the ghost, and he's like stabbing them.
Oh yeah, we see them get their arms cut.
Yeah, and that's a whole thing.
But that's a dream, because in real life, the serial killer isn't the ghost.
No, the serial killer is a real person.
But the ghost is real, it's just not a serial killer.
He comes in the room, and he's like, I'm the serial killer, and then a folding chair flies at him, and he gets knocked unconscious, and then...
they just stay in that room.
Then they stay in that room, and then the ghost says, he starts talking to them, ethereally. I'm the ghost.
Most people can't hear me. I'm a ghost, Joe.
But you can hear me for some reason.
All right.
They can just hear him.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, like, sure, it's hard to recreate a hospital. I get that. It's hard to shoot in a hospital. And it's hard to recreate it with absolutely no money. But a dorm room, a house, an apartment, a hallway, a company, like you're shooting on actual film, and you're spending a lot of money apparently on CGI that was done specifically for the movie, apparently. So you're putting like all that money into those weird things, but you can't recreate a room. It's just like mind-boggling.
But you decided to recreate that room when you didn't need to, and it would have been much, much better if you didn't try to recreate a room.
Sure.
Even the hospital was shot in a real room, and that would have probably looked better if it was just shot in the dumpy warehouse.
Yeah.
That would have, like... Why that scene where you can see the ceiling fan? Frame that stuff out. They cut to one of his weird cutaways. There's just a cutaway to a close-up of that ceiling fan in the hospital.
Did they feel like a failure of a filmmaker when they actually had to film the pizzeria pantry scene in an actual kitchen?
We're not shooting this on a set.
Damn it!
Like a movie.
We gotta film in a kitchen. Why can't I build a kitchen out of cardboard and construction paper? We're out of budget. There's no more construction paper. You have to film in an actual kitchen. It'll look great. Damn it! Damn it!
Or maybe the warehouse he was shooting all the other scenes in burned down, like the paper caught on fire and just it all went up. Now he has to shoot in a real place.
Action.
And I guess the twist or the revelation is that the ghost is a victim of the killer, right?
We think.
Isn't that what the final scene is?
The final scene, we have Emo Phillips, homely lady who looks like Emo Phillips, and other lady who was a patient of Doctor. Emo Phillips lady has moved into a new house, and her boyfriend, friend, colleague, relative, his name's Steve. And she's like, I love what you've done with the older lady. I love what you've done with the place. You've put a computer monitor in the middle of your room.
And you turn your pictures towards the window.
Turn your pictures away. Let me just pick up these pictures and look at them. Oh, isn't this Steve? Steve was a great guy. 4 years ago, something tragic happened where he died. I don't know if they said he was murdered or not.
I thought that was the point of that scene, is that he was a murder victim of the killer.
Yeah, but we discover that the killer, because there's a scene where the killer is interrogated by the FBI in cell 1. and the locations are indicated by a piece of paper.
Of course,
once again.
of course.
Cell 1. This time they were laminated.
No expense was spared
No
at the
expense was
FBI
spared.
building.
So we wanted to...
They did have a jacket that said FBI on it.
They did.
That's kind of surprising.
Yeah. I don't know how important the serial killer part is. I think the more important part is how the human brain reacts to trauma or ghosts. I have no fucking idea what I'm talking about. It's a mystery.
Pulling for something.
I'm pulling for. It's a mystery.
Yeah.
And the movie just ends.
Guy at the beginning?
Yeah.
Which guy?
He's just standing in a chair, and he'd stand up. He had stubble. And he'd sit down, and
Oh, the movie ended.
Oh my God! It's over.
but I knew it would just end. I knew it would just end. Was this made on like a bet? Like, my friend's never seen a movie. I bet I can get him to make a movie.
I'm independently wealthy. I'll just throw money at his film. Let's just see what happens when Mark makes a film.
Mark from accounting, he's super weird. Give him $5 million and see what happens.
Maybe this movie was a psychiatry experiment where like they found one of those kids who was raised by wolves. What happens if this kid makes a movie?
This was the biggest challenge we've ever faced.
But I feel like we haven't found satisfactory answers. Like, usually we can kind of reason, well, they were maybe thinking this.
Yeah.
I have no idea. This is a big question mark to me.
Yeah, that's a regular thing where we're like, oh, I can see what they were trying, like in their mind, I can picture what they thought the scene would be.
Yeah.
But this is like, there's no explanation.
This movie is like distilled befuddlement. With like, usually we've been befuddled by bad movies before, but usually there's other distractions like, oh, that acting's really bad, or oh, that special effect is really cheesy, and this is just befuddlement, like distilled befuddlement.
The acting is one of the best things about it.
Yes.
And the acting's not even good.
Yeah, that's true. The acting is passable. They're doing their best with what they were given, and it's not bad.
Oh, there's some quotes on the back.
Oh, share.
A film that is completely unlike any you've ever seen before.
That's true. That's true. That's a true box quote on Best of the Worst.
Oh, both quotes are from the same website, but by different people, filmmonthly.com. The psycho thriller blends science fiction, mystery, and murder, ... The movie as a whole is so entrancing.
Wait.
What did they cut out? What's in between that ellipses?
Out of context,
A lot
but
of negatives.
very accurate.
Yeah.
What is the official synopsis printed on the back of the box? I'm curious.
The residents of a city have discovered several murders. The residents of the city. As two medical students, Matthew Andrews and Sarah Austin, continue their work at the Proralis Corporation, a medical research facility, their work takes them through a new mystery. They find themselves on a perilous path toward the person behind the murders. I mean, that's literally things that happen in the film. Oh no. It's a ghost. The ghost is here.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen a movie quite like this. I mean, a movie about MRI machines and a ghost.
Yet not about MRI machines and a ghost.
Yeah. About so much more and nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weird.
It's weird. Yeah.
It's weird.
You can't see me, but the two of you can hear me.
What?
Oh my God.
What?
No one else seems to be able to hear me talk. Can you tell where I am?
Ghosts. Are you here?
I don't have a shape. Neither of you can touch me.
Oh.
Oh, I guess that was just fishing line.
But the ghost was pulling the fishing line.